The nonprofit's called ChildStrive. It's an amazing outfit. We support them. And of course, when coronavirus shut everything down and people had to stay home, they had to adapt very quickly. And Jim reached out and said, hey, we've got some interesting stories.
ChildStrive provides a continuum of home-based services for families with young kids.
So a lot of our staff are like nurses, speech therapists, OTs, PTs, educators, and so forth. David went to a submarine where he didn't understand the systems, where they were much better at it. I worked with homeless young adults before coming here. So my knowledge of early learning is pretty sketchy. I didn't have a lot of knowledge to be able to present, but my title would have suggested that I knew everything, right? Our response to the virus in shifting from the traditional way we provide services to telehealth, our way of kind of bringing the teams and relationships together, didn't start when the virus hit. I mean, we've been working on this for a couple of years. It really started with bringing intent-based leadership to the organization, trying to establish it through our culture and our behavior. At one end, we took David's book and we started a book club. We developed CQI teams, which are continuous quality improvement teams. The CQI teams did not have anybody in management, and it was staff across programs. And the CQI teams met for about 9 months. And the exercise we had was pretend ChildStrive doesn't exist. The folks around the room, using their common wisdom and experience in life, how would you set the compensation, or how would you design the technology? So one of the things we came up with was instead of traditional time off, we have what we call self-care. It's not accumulated. You take the time that you need. So if you have a doctor's appointment, you don't have to look at, do I have to take this as sick time or vacation time? You just go to your doctor's appointment. That completely changed the culture in the agency.
The core of it is really about focusing on the people versus the task. So taking every opportunity you can to connect.
We went from an organization that really struggled hiring and retaining staff at one point to kind of being the go-to organization to work. So we went into this fully staffed.
As the virus was starting to ramp up here, we were certainly having conversations about it on a very regular basis, like daily. And again, with the teams of kind of letting them gauge to some degree what they felt they needed for their own personal lives. We have a staff person who, with a compromised immune system, she was like home, working from home, like immediately. And we had the tools for her to do her visits virtually immediately. Whereas other staff took a little bit of a longer process.
Our service delivery model right now is spot on, really strong, very flexible, very resilient. We have the technology to easily transition into a virtual organization. Just the self-care alone, with all the ambiguity of working at home and kids at home, we didn't have to sort out vacation, sick, or anything like that at other organizations. Our staff has 2 years experience of figuring out that work-life balance for each individual and each team. So this was just a natural transition for them around that piece.
What we've said is what the most important thing is to connect with the family. Not to make sure you get that therapy service done, but connect with the family. And so for some families, that's been totally seamless. They have the technology, they have the means, they had a good relationship, they just move on to virtual visits, and it's been completely seamless. For some families, it's like, I have 6 other kids, I can't focus on my toddler and doing therapy with my toddler right now because the 13-year-old is driving me crazy. And so it's a 10-minute phone call just to check in to see how they're doing. And we're hoping to build that back into therapy sessions as this goes on and on.
We went from an organization that I would say had a fairly thin leadership structure in terms of people that felt empowered that they could make decisions and do things, to be to have a lot of depth in our leadership at all different levels of the organization. We are the go-to employer now. And what's funny about it is we're not the highest paid employer. I mean, we spent the last 2 years developing a collective clarity of what our mission is. And we haven't had to change any policies as an organization. It really is business as usual. Comments I had from the board like a year or so ago was, Jim, this is all nice because everybody's really happy. I mean, we've turned ourselves around financially in a very poor way. We've doubled in size in the last couple of years. And they said that this is all really great when times are good, but this isn't going to work when times get bad. And what we found is the opposite. The myth that if you give staff control, that works in when everything's perfect. And when things go south, you have to take that control back. I think we're blown out of the water. At the end of the day, it's people sitting down trying to figure things out together. And we always have to remember it all comes down to humanity and how we engage each other.